When you woke up today, you probably felt like you were standing on solid ground. You checked your phone, maybe played a quick round of a game on your console, or asked an AI assistant to summarize your morning emails. You think you're participating in a free market, a Western economy built by Silicon Valley and Wall Street? But here's the deal. That game you're playing? It's owned by a foreign state. The AI you're using, its physical brain, the data center, and the power grid is being quietly repossessed. Welcome to the era where your lifestyle is no longer your own. It's someone else's foreign property. Let's look at the numbers, because they're staggering as of this morning. March 9th, 2026. The total assets held by global sovereign wealth funds have hit $15 trillion. Let that sink in. 15 trillion? That's a 25% jump in just 3 years. To give you some perspective, that's more than the total deposits of every single commercial bank in the United States combined. We're talking about a mountain of cash held by a handful of oil-rich nations and state-led economies. And they aren't just investing anymore. They're buying the infrastructure of your daily life. Take Electronic Arts, the giant behind the biggest sports games in the world. A PIF-led consortium just took them private in a $55 billion all-cash deal. Think about that. Every time a teenager in Ohio buys a digital jersey, that revenue isn't just going to a CEO in California, it's flowing directly into a sovereign treasury in the Middle East. And it's not just gaming. Middle Eastern funds now account for nearly 20% of all global venture capital funding. That's a 370% increase in 3 years. They've become the lenders of last resort for the entire Western tech ecosystem. But how did we get here? How did the world's most powerful economy start putting for sale signs on its most iconic assets? So here's where the story takes a turn, and it's a bit of a pincer movement. We're calling it the stagflation trap of 2026. On one side, you've got energy. Brent crude is sitting at $110.45 per barrel. Why? Supply shocks in the Strait of Hormuz have choked off 20% of the world's oil flow. That's a massive immediate tax on every Western consumer? It's draining cash out of your pocket and sending it straight to the very sovereign funds we're talking about. Now look at the other side of the pincer. To fight the inflation caused by that expensive oil, the Fed has kept interest rates at 5.5%. They've been higher for longer for years now. But look at the cost. The latest jobs report shows a loss of 92,000 non-farm payrolls. It's the first major contraction since the pandemic. Domestic capital, the money from your local bank or private equity firm, has basically frozen. It's too expensive to borrow, and everyone's running scared. The US 10-year Treasury yield is at 4.85%. Think of that like a 10 times salary debt for the whole country. It makes every mortgage, every business loan, and every infrastructure project painfully expensive. This is the perfect storm. While Western companies are facing a liquidity crisis, starved of cash and struggling with high rates, the oil-rich sovereign funds are swimming in it. They have zero debt, they have infinite time horizons, and suddenly, Western tech, energy grids, and infrastructure companies look like they're on a 40% off clearance rack. It's not a hostile takeover in the traditional sense. It's a rescue mission where the rescuer gets to keep the deed to your future. This isn't just a market shift, it's a fundamental change in who owns the operating system of the West. Now, this is the part I find wild. The money isn't just sitting in bank accounts, it's being woven into a global web of control. Follow the trail from your gas pump to the data center. Sovereign funds like PIF, which now manages nearly $1 trillion, are moving away from volatile oil and into what economists call rent-seeking assets. They want things you must pay for every single month, forever. And right now, that means AI and energy. Look at the GAIIP, the Global AI Infrastructure Investment Partnership. It's a $100 billion alliance between MGX, Microsoft, and BlackRock. On the surface, it looks like a great corporate partnership. But look deeper. Why does Microsoft need a foreign sovereign fund to build data centers? Because the energy demand is exploding. We're looking at 850 terawatt-hours of demand for data centers globally. That's a 112% increase. You can't build that kind of infrastructure with high-interest bank loans. You need infinite cash. You need sovereign wealth. By owning the power grids that run the AI and the data centers that store your life, these funds are becoming the invisible landlords of the 21st century. They aren't just investors. They are the infrastructure owners. When Larry Fink of BlackRock says sovereign capital is the only source for the $100 trillion needed for the energy transition, he's basically admitting that the private market can no longer afford to build the future. We've reached a point where if you want a green economy or a powerful AI, you have to lease it from a foreign monarch. It's a fascinating and slightly chilling trade-off. We get the technology, but they get the control. I know what you're thinking. Wait, didn't we see this before? In 1989, everyone was panicked because Japan was buying Rockefeller Center and Pebble Beach. But here's why this time is different. And honestly, why the math is much more lopsided. Back in the 80s, the Japanese asset bubble was built on massive debt and a soaring yen. The US could and did use the Plaza Accord to devalue the yen and effectively cool that buying spree. It was a diplomatic solution to an economic problem. But today's sovereign funds, they aren't leveraged. They aren't bound by Western treaties, and they aren't buying real estate trophies. They're buying the brains of the future economy. You can't just devalue a fund that sits on $15 trillion of hard cash and oil reserves. This has triggered what I call the experts' war. On one side, you have guys like Ray Dalio, who argues that this is just a natural rebalancing of global wealth. He says you have to follow the neutral liquidity if you want your portfolio to survive stagflation. To him, it's just math. On the other side, you've got bears like Kenneth Rogoff from Harvard. He's warning about sovereign traps. He argues that when a foreign state owns your power grid or your primary AI model, your domestic policy is held hostage. If you want to pass a law that the landlord doesn't like, they don't have to lobby. They just have to look at the for sale signs they've already replaced with leased signs. Even Nouriel Roubini, Dr. Doom himself, is saying we're entering an era of state capitalism 2.0, where the free market dies because a private company simply cannot compete with a buyer who has an infinite bankroll and a 1,000-year plan. Let's bring this back to your kitchen table. How does this actually hit your wallet? Think about your monthly bills. Your electricity bill is increasingly paying for a foreign state's energy transition. Your AI subscription, the one you use for work or school, is funding a foreign vision of the future. Even your retirement fund is struggling because it's trying to compete for assets against state-backed capital that doesn't care about quarterly returns. The free market isn't dead, but it's no longer the only game in town. It's being crowded out by a much larger, much more patient player. The flags in our front yards haven't changed, but the deeds in the courthouse have. We are moving from an era of ownership to an era of permanent rent. We're trading our sovereignty for liquidity, our control for convenience and growth. The increase in the federal funds rate by 1,100% since 2021 was the catalyst that broke the Western model of self-funding. It opened the door for the $15 trillion repossession. So, the next time you hear about a massive new partnership or a tech giant going private, don't just look at the stock price. Ask yourself, who actually holds the keys? Because in the world of 2026, the biggest threat to your financial independence isn't a market crash. It's the fact that you might be living in a world that's already been sold. The deeds to our future have been signed over in an all-cash deal. Welcome to the era of the sovereign receipt. The question is, what are you going to do when you realize you're just a tenant in your own life?